I put some blue thread locker on this. Usually I use Loctite, but this is the only thing I could find for some reason. Tighten that one down, tighten the one opposite, just do a star pattern until they're just kind of snug, and then I go back and torque them in the same pattern. I also forgot I don't have a flywheel holder, so I had to put a breaker bar at the other end with, I think, a 22 socket on the crankshaft, and then I put this block under there, and surprisingly that worked. Just clean the surface good with some brake cleaner, wipe it down, and bolt on the pressure plate and install the discs. There's some instructions here. So this one is the super twin disc unit with the 6mm bolts. Those are going to be 8 foot-pounds. And it's saying to use red thread locker. Here's our clutch alignment tool. This is labeled transmission side, and this other one is labeled flywheel side. So we can't flip those around. Also pay attention to the yellow mark there. We're going to line that up with the mark on the flywheel and the mark on the pressure plate. I don't know if that matters, but they clearly marked it for a reason, so we're just going to do that for that reason. I'm going to go ahead and clean this surface on both sides with brake cleaner just to be safe, to know that there's no oil on it. I thought about cleaning the disc. I'll just see how the brake cleaner takes to it, and I might clean it. I might just leave it. If you do think you get it mixed up, this part number on mine at least was right here on the flywheel side. So I'm just going to slap it up on there, and then we can put that pressure plate on. I sprayed this off with brake cleaner and make sure there's no oil on it. You know, make sure there's no raised edges that are going to cause problems, so I filed them a little bit. There's only like 2 spots. That one right there. So our yellow mark is right there. So that disc is going to fit the middle disc. I guess the middle, it's almost like a flywheel surface plate or whatever you want to call it. Sits in between these areas here. So we'll put that on there. Eight foot-pounds is equal to 96 inch-pounds. The best thing to do for this is just to tighten down in like a star pattern to try and get this plate to seat evenly. So you don't want to over torque it on one side and then all of a sudden tighten the rest of it. It's really important for that, for the health of the pressure plate to seat evenly, to just do a star pattern. So I originally just took a 1/4 inch ratchet and this 4mm adapter piece to just tighten them all the way around in a star pattern, and then after I finally got it close enough, then I torqued it down. I got this off eBay, so I'll leave that in a link below in the description box. It's a lot easier to use this one than the 1/2 inch one, and it's a lot easier to tell when it's actually torqued down rather than the bigger version right here that goes up to 150 foot-pounds. This one doesn't click near as loud at the lower levels, so I'll just get that one. Now that I got the whole clutch assembly on, I can now pull out the clutch alignment tool. It's really important to work on you know, make sure that you change out the throwout bearing, and we could change out that pilot bearing too. Everything is done here on the transmission side. I already cleaned all this area. I made a new dowel pin because there wasn't one there. And so everything is done in this area. We just need to work on getting the transmission ready to be put on. I just cleaned up everything that way, and I highly recommend you do the same thing. That way you can tell where the oil leak is coming from if it has one. This car likely will not have any leaks from anywhere because we've already been through everything. The last thing I have to change is like some seals for the differential, but I already have all those parts. This kit that I bought with the clutch came with a new clutch fork, so I already put that on there, but I'll just kind of briefly show you how it works. There's a little spring thing, or I guess you can say retainer, that holds this on. I'm actually going to take that back off because I have a new shift fork ball to put on there. That's a stainless steel one, hoping that it will last longer than the plastic one. The plastic one actually seemed like it was in perfect shape, but because we're going with the upgraded clutch, it's going to have a lot more stress on it, so I just want to go ahead and replace it so I don't have to worry about it. The throwout bearing, this is the new one. The old one was definitely bad. It was in terrible shape. This one, you can see it moves back and forth a little bit, but the other one, it almost seemed like there's no balls in it anymore. So if you want to remove this piece, you could just pull it out here, just slide that off. And this ball back here is what I was talking about replacing. So that will come off. We'll put a new one on, a stainless steel one, and then we'll just slide all that back together. I think it just pulls out, like with a pair of pliers or something. Then some of the other things that should be worked on is, you can see the shifting arms there, I guess you would call it. I just took all that stuff off and re-greased it so I won't have any problems. There's also, this part of the shifter where the bushings inside there can be replaced, so I'm going to replace those too. These pieces, they can be replaced, so we're going to replace those. This is going to get replaced too, and I have a new, well, I made a pin to fix that, and then I have the original pin to fix that one, or put that back. So I also cleaned up this whole area too, that way I can tell if there's any leaks. Here's the old thrust bearing. You can just see and how bad a shape this thing was. See how much it moves? It almost looks like there's not even any bearings in it anymore. But it didn't make any noise, surprisingly. Oh, this was the rear seal right here too. This thing was, it wasn't even in the block anymore. It just completely fell out, and you can see the seal area, a lot of this has been ripped out. So I just pulled it out because it was just laying there, and then I put a new one in. And that's the old flywheel. So this is how to install it. The way to tell which way it goes is there's a flat spot on the back of this right here, and that lines up with that. That's a little bit raised up. You can see this area is like cut out. So I went ahead and greased up here in the little cuts. I put one cut in there, and I'm going to just press it down in there. And just snapped in. And the way to get the old one out is I just took this vise right here and just crushed it so that the sides here would compress so it would release it. So I just took it like this, put it in there like that, and then just crushed the side of it to make it smaller so it just fell out of there. And then this side, it just did the same thing, and it just came out really easy. Now I just need to grease up the inside of this with new grease and then put it on the shifter. I think it goes like that, unless I have it backwards. It goes one way or the other. Here's the old one. It just pulled out with a pair of pliers. It's kind of stiff going in there in comparison to the new one though. This is the new one. Kind of worried about that. The old one goes in there really tight.